All right, so I'm recording and have your permission to post this and use it for YouTube.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, cool. So, Biotic, congratulations. You're the newest account I think I've ever had. It's like a 183 ID. That's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me say, how many
Yeah.
days in are you again? Okay, you're about 130, 135 days.
Yes.
567 gems from your screenshot. Okay, so and you're currently like towards the end of your KVK 1, right?
Yeah, it's 11 days left.
Okay, so just kind of like let me know like what you're looking for this. I have some ideas on what I want to talk about, but I guess for like the audience, I think there's a lot of people kind of in your shoes. KVK 1, starting KVK 2. What should I do next?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Go ahead.
I was especially wondering, like, I've been the big guy in the KVK 1, and now I will be a small guy in the next KVKs facing, like, cross-season migrants. So I was especially wondering, like, how do I make this transition of being the big whale in KVK 1 to the open field fighter that is growing slowly the account in the in the future KVKs, especially like transitioning into SOC.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I think only like actual like whales, right? And like for me, and I want to say if I had to take a guess, you're in this range because you're almost VIP 16 already, right? Like
Yeah.
you unlock 2 out of the 4 T5s. I'm counting Siege. Don't unlock Siege, but
Yeah.
you unlock 2. You're working on Archer, right? I think the Pavis, the Archer defense and attack, you're 2 away, and then you can unlock
Hmm.
T5 for that, right? So this
I
is
could have, yeah.
yeah. So this is like a pretty big whale count. I think you said you would like to drop down to like a mid spend somewhere maybe like between $500 to $1,000 from this point on. But up to
Yeah.
this point, it's been a lot higher. So like your experience
Hmm.
is going to be like in the minority compared to most people, and then your experience is that you're going to feel like a god in KVK 1, where
Hmm.
you can literally just take your marches, like march into the middle of an enemy ball, and they could surround you, and you'll come out trading positive. Like
That's what I've done. Just counterattack damage Martel and I'm winning like 1v20 every time.
yeah, and it's just like it's just crazy right now. And so then each subsequent KVK, like a new level of things that are against you gets unlocked, and then you won't actually ever really feel like that again.
Hmm.
Actually, you won't ever feel like that again. So sorry.
I missed it already.
Yeah. Okay. So in KVK, so right. Let's just to paint the picture. I think you already know this. KVK 2, people can migrate over. They can't use endgame
Hmm.
commanders or equipment, but people that have been playing a lot longer than you can now be in your KVK. Right. KVK
Yeah.
3, the people that have been playing longer than you and have had access to endgame commanders can also use them, and you're going to be very, very short on gold heads, right? So now the commanders are going to be at a disadvantage, in addition to potentially like equipment, all that stuff. KVK 4, you'll actually catch up a little bit because at your spend level, you're probably going to have a big advantage over a lot of those people in crystal tech. So like KVK 2 will be frustrating. KVK 3 will be the most frustrating. KVK 4,
Okay.
if you push max tech or close to it, you'll feel like you could close the gap of a lot of those people because, I hate to say it, but like most of the people that migrate back, they're migrating back for a reason, right? Like they want to migrate back to catch their account back. They want to migrate back to beat up on weaker players, like whatever the case is.
Bully.
Yeah, to bully
Yeah.
them. So they're probably not going to be spending on crystal tech the same. So if you're doing it, you can kind of catch up. And then KVK 5, you're outside your continent, so now you could be fighting all kinds of people that are just not like those native kingdoms right around your kingdom number, right? And then like that, so that could be another rude awakening, and then you start kind of catching up after that. So, so a couple questions, right? Like right now, without knowing anything else. So you said you played the game, like almost when the game first started. You got to like City Hall 22, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
and then you just didn't have enough time back then, and then now you're starting again, right? Right now, again, just like crystal ball in the future, what would be your plan as far as like, are you gonna ever plan on migrating back? Do you just want to like kind of go into SOC? Like, what would you like to do? Well, like based on your personality, what seems the most enjoyable to you?
Yeah, what I really enjoy in this game is field fighting, and I believe I would never migrate back really much. Pretty much, I want to get fast into SOC, get my commanders ready, and I love to see great battle reports. So I'm one of these people that would probably focus on less marches and
Okay.
on the quality
Okay.
of those, and yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So and then like a mid spend is probably what you would prefer and can sustain for like the rest of the time you play SOC, right? I mean,
For
I
long
play
term,
Rock.
yes.
Unless okay, cool. Okay, so for that, I'll kind of give you my thoughts and like coach you to that. And is there anything specifically you had a question about before I get started? Just so we could, yeah.
There were quite a few things I noted down, but we can probably just do the review first of all, and then I go into the questions after, right?
Okay. Okay, so I want to see what I could start with that will make the most sense. Okay, so let's start with equipment first, then armaments, and then we'll talk about commanders, and then I think there's a couple other loose ends I want to touch on, and then you could probably bring up anything that you feel like I missed. Okay.
Yeah, awesome.
So with equipment right here, you have 3 sets. Okay, 2 infantry and 1 cav. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. It's just like ideally at some point you probably want archer, but like archer won't be till like KVK 4 for you, just because if you look at like the wheel when you can get access to the best archer commanders, it won't be until towards the end of KVK 3 anyways. So there really isn't any like incentive or priority to craft archer. So having said that, with the equipment right now, right, the 2 on the left, so obviously this one with the on the Martel YSG, and actually the one on the Cav, you can actually run this into KVK 4 and it'll already be good enough, right? With the tech I was talking about earlier, like the 30 mil, you'll be able to do it with this. You'll trade pretty well. Like that actually won't be a problem. Okay. Now, as you get there, what I would actually recommend is that you don't upgrade this 3rd set. If anything, if you do plan on like, and at your spend level, like if you're doing like the mid spend, you're looking at like ultimately you want to end up at like 5 or 6 marches.
Yeah.
Right. If you do want to do a 7th at that spend, I think it's probably best to go siege if you're going to do that, but that's like really far down the road. And like even then, like, you know, like it'll be, because right now you're at what, like 230 something days. It'll probably be something where
130. Yeah,
it'll be probably something like almost 2 years from now, right? So like that's too far down the road. We don't have to worry about that.
That's just long term.
Yeah. So the way to because like out of all the investments you can do, right, gold has into commanders, into armaments or equipment, the equipment actually has the longest staying power, right? Like they can devalue it. Basically they can make it where it's easier to get some blueprints, easier to get some mats, but like about 6 months ago, maybe a little bit longer, they try to revamp the equipment system where they're like, hey, we're going to release new equipment, and like there was an outrage. There was a freaking outrage.
Yeah.
They had to roll it back, and then they decided to do this awaken system, right? So like having seen that, I think they kind of learned their lesson with that. I don't know, they might try to do like awaken 6 or something, kind of like they're doing a VIP 19, but I find it highly unlikely that they're going to make, say, like the Eternal Empire shield obsolete and you have to invest in something else. Right, so basically anything you invest in now in equipment, it's something that will actually stay with you into the end game. Whereas like if you do a commander now, if you even do an armament now, because I think the armament system's pretty broken. We'll talk about that next. There's actually a high chance that if you invest too much into it now, it won't hold the value as well as the equipment. Okay, so for you, with the commanders you're showing me on here, what were you planning on doing with Alex? Did you already have a plan in mind?
I was considering to expertise him. Like, I for sure do the wheels because I have a lot of leftover gems right now. We can talk about this later, but I've about a surplus of 150,000 gems per month that I have to spin pretty much.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah,
So
I would use them.
okay, so we'll get to that next. Okay, but I just want to kind of see where you were at with that before we went down that road.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's what I would do with this equipment. I would not touch the infantry set anymore, right? Like you get 5 iconic crystals per KVK, so there's just nothing you could do about that besides playing more KVKs. The calves, the next one you should, the next thing you should upgrade is Navarre's control, and then you just kind of keep it there, and then you have to decide whether you want to do 2 daggers and your murder ball, or skip the daggers altogether. Right? If you want to do the daggers, obviously accessory take the most. You can actually start putting stuff into there now, or if you're not going to do the dagger, then I would actually start probably like messing around with getting the stuff you do have iconic on the infantry to awaken 2.
Okay.
Right? Or you could actually start kind of like putting stuff towards your archer, so you don't have to worry about it later on.
Yeah,
Okay.
Archers is something I definitely want to talk about because I have the El Cid. I didn't write it down, I believe, but it's 5552 just for free because of the MGEs.
You have who?
And I was wondering, El Cid, like
Cid, yeah.
I have pretty. Yeah, I'd get him expertise for sure for KVK 2 pretty much for free.
Yeah.
And like right now I don't have the T5 archers intentionally just because it gives me power, right? And I didn't plan to use them. Like if I substitute the third one with an archer march, however that would look like, or however, yeah.
I don't see like. So if you were doing that, right, I think the logical thing you would do is El Cid YSG. And then you'll do something like some combination of like Martel Richard. Wait, let me take that back. You're running 3 marches, right? So you're gonna do calves for sure. You do Mina, CC or Mina by bars, right? So that's not gonna change. If you do Archer, it'll be El Cid YSG, and then you'll have Martel, Richard, Sun Tzu, and then potentially Alex left over. If you were going to run the 2, like I would actually run Martel, Alex. Slightly over.
Does Alex have to be expertised?
Alex's value, he's like okay, right? But his expertise is just really good. It's like if I had to rank one of the top 5 expertise in the game, like all of the game, like his would be up there. It's disgusting how good it is. It's not necessarily going to show up your report in the same way, but like I made a video talking about it before, right? So like for example, if a target's taking 30% more damage, every single march that's hitting it is getting that debuff advantage. Right. So like there's just not another like expertise that is like that good as a debuff. Right? Like 30% damage, 3 targets for 4 seconds is absolutely disgusting. You know, but like at this point.
Any more?
Go ahead.
Oh. I couldn't hear you anymore. I think your internet died or something. No, it's good again.
Okay, where did I cut off?
We talked about Alex and his expertise.
Yeah, his expertise is like absolutely disgusting. It's it's one of the top 5 in the game. When you're making a target take more damage, right? Every single march that's hitting it is benefiting. Whereas like if you have an expertise that's like doing more damage, only you are doing more damage, right? If you have an expertise that's like buffing like up to 5 marches, you're only buffing 5 marches. But like if a target is out of position and then it has Alex's debuff on it and then like 12 marches are hitting it, all 12 marches are doing 30% more damage. Right? So like in general, when you have a debuff that's making the target take more damage, that is like the best debuff, the best kind of debuff in the game. And like Alex just has that. So like it's not like you can't use them without it, especially in KVK 2. He's just someone where like if you have access to MGs and like well no wait, Alex is a wheel commander.
It's a weird commander. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, is it worth it to spin the wheel for Alex though? I would actually probably for you say no, but let's finish up with the equipment first, and then we'll get to the
Yeah.
commanders.
Mhm.
Okay. So you could
For
do
sure.
so you could like do a couple things with this, right? You could start working on your archer equipment right now, right?
Yeah.
But here the problem is like in the early game right now, like this set you have on the second infantry set is actually good enough for you to run until KVK 3. And I don't know if
Wow.
you're getting.
Okay.
I don't even know like KVK 3. It needs to be upgraded. KVK 2, like as a second infantry set for your like third march, is more than good enough.
Okay.
So
That's surprising because like I was building this like in one KVK, right? All
Yeah.
these 3 sets. So
yeah. So like I mean, I feel like you're a whale huh? Up to this point. So like actually kind of like talking through. So like you had El Cid.
I have him on 5552 right now.
Yeah, I would. And then your spend. Okay, let me tell you what I would. This is what I think you should do for your equipment, and then we'll go to the commanders. Okay, so
Mhm.
I think for your cav, right, get the Navarre's control next, and then Ash of the Dawn is pretty easy to get. You could craft that too, right? And then I wouldn't actually do anything else on your cav set. From there, you can either start working on your archer set, but you really won't use it until probably the end of KVK 3 or 4, or you could just save your mats and blueprints.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Okay, and like,
Mhm.
and like, if you're like, hey, you know, I'm going crazy just saving all this stuff. If you want to make your infantry and your cav set like Awaken 2, you can. Awaken 3 for almost every one of these equipment's a waste because you just get like some troop capacity that like does like nothing. You know, like gaining 300, 800 troops. That's like that's like nothing. Like a white damage is like 5k like in the end game, right? So like you're doing like one fifth of like what you see for the white damage. Like that's what you're spending like 15, 20 mats on. It's just not worth it. Right?
Yeah.
So in
Would rather save them then.
yeah, so in general, when you're upgrading Awaken 2, and then if you don't have a crit on it, you crit it, and then you go further than that. The exception is the boots, especially right now for archers, getting to Awaken 4 and 5 just because of that march speed. That's a little bit more important. But in general, Awaken 2, crit, and then you want to go further. Okay, so like, to actually be able to compete, right? Like you want good trade, you want to compete. Where you want to compete is actually you want your equipment to be competitive with the people you're fighting against or better, right? But you actually don't really want to be competing when it comes to commanders, just because any commanders you really invest in right now will kind of go to a waste.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it was me right now, and this is why I'm saying if it was me, because I know like I'm not the most patient. I'm patient, but I'm not the most patient. There's some people that just get saved and grind. Like I would go crazy. I would actually.
I'm very patient.
Okay, so then I would actually do the 2 pieces on the calves, the gloves and the legs, right? And then it seems like at the rate in which you're gaining, you can also get every one of those to Awaken 2 if you could get the blueprints. If not, just save, and then you can start kind of like accumulating blueprints and building towards the archer set if you want, but like run the infantry for KVK 2, the second infantry, and not try to do archer. Because like trying to force an El Cid in there just to like just so you can run another troop type, it's like it's all right. It doesn't make that big of a difference.
Yeah, my initial idea was like to run the archers, especially because the Zenith skin is debuffing calves, right? So I was like, oh, why don't build an archer march? But if you really look into the options, they're not great, like of the archer marches.
Yeah, exactly. And also a Zenith skin, that one is about to be like by far the best skin in the game, right? Unless they change something, because they're going to take away the debuffs for the skin, so you don't even have that problem with calves.
Exactly, yeah. I've heard about this too, so I was like, yeah, maybe build a second calf too for the future. So this is amazing.
Yeah, sure. I wouldn't necessarily start trying to crit everything, because you do like once you get access to the endgame commanders, KVK 3, 4, and 5, like you do want to start building out more marches, right? It's almost just like think like you want to be building at a pace where your equipment and your commanders will be ready at about the same time.
Yeah.
right? So like if it's archers, it will actually be like in the KVK 3, KVK 4, probably when you start building your first archer march. So as long as your archer set is ready to use by then, it's pretty good. There's videos all around, they're still applicable, but in general, just think like 4-piece revival, and then the Dragon's Breath chest. And like that's actually like good enough for KVK 4. And then honestly, depending on your seeding, like if it's like a lower seeding when you're fighting like low A seeds and B seeds, and you're spending enough on crystal tech, you could actually just run that and like trade okay, like indefinitely, right? Obviously, like I think for you want to upgrade it, but
For sure.
but once you get to that point, what you're kind of trying to decide between is, yes, like good trades are important, right?
Yeah.
But like good trades, a lot of times, if you're focused on that, also means you're actually not getting a lot of output, right? So like you're in Europe, right? So I assume you're a big soccer fan.
Yeah, sort of, maybe.
Sure. Okay. So like, let's just say like you have a player and like he will only take shots when he feels like he could get a shot on goal, right? So like, okay, his shot on goal percentage is through the roof, right? But he probably actually wasn't willing to take any like risks, where like maybe it's not like a high chance of getting a shot on goal, but there's actually a high expected values for scoring, right? The percentage could look really good, but overall output he's sacrificing. Right, so like when you're getting later in the game, what you're actually trying to figure out is, okay, if I have enough resources and speeds, right, I can afford to actually trade a little worse to get another march on the field, because like one extra march is just going to be more effective as far as like dealing sub wounds, even though the reports won't be as crazy, but overall you're actually doing a lot more. The amount of kills you're getting is going to be a lot higher. Right, so it's kind of like that trade-off there. Whereas like early game, you know, like I want the 7-to-1, I want the whatever ratio, like that's great. But like later on, you're actually balancing between trades and then like actual output, and they're not the same thing. Right,
Yeah,
so like high percentage doesn't mean it's always better, or like good report doesn't mean it's always better. Because like if I just focus all of my resources onto one march and get really good reports, right, I'm actually kind of a dead weight for my kingdom because I only have one march running around on the field. Right, but my power is counting for a lot more. Like my power is counting for someone that, you know, like someone else could be running 5 marches, right? But I'm just running one super march. I'm not going to be doing as much around, right? So like it's always that kind of like balance later on. Okay, so like, is there anything with equipment that I didn't really cover that you want to have a question or comment about?
I think it was a good overview over it.
Okay,
for sure.
Okay, cool. So then let's talk about commanders. So with commanders, right? I asked you about Alex. I don't. It's not a secret for me. Lucia Alex is by far my favorite march in the game. I think it's by far the best march in the game.
Okay.
Now the problem is, one, we don't know the next cycle is going to be leadership, engineering, or a combination of both. But at some point, right, based on Lilith's pattern before, you're going to get the Cav commander coming out next, and then the one after that is going to be infantry. Right, so then if you look at like the usual amount of time between commander releases, it's like 60 to 80 days, right? It's really 50 something.
It's been really fast. It felt like for me.
Yeah, like Ragnar kind of came out of nowhere, right? Like we weren't expecting that. But like the last one, Shajara, was like the normal archer cycle, right? And then after that, is it going to be leadership? Is it going to be engineering? Are they going to skip it all together and go to Cav? We actually don't know yet, right? But let's just say Ragnar is like a anomaly, right? Not part of the cycle. And Shajar just came out. You're probably going to be hearing about the next commander in like the next month or less, right? And then let's just say it's engineering / leadership, right? Okay, so then that means like you probably have about a month and a half until this next commander comes out, maybe 2 months. And then you have like another like 2 to 3 months until the Cav commander comes out, right? So that will be like 5 months, and then you might have another 2 to 3 months until the next infantry commander comes out. So I think like 7 or 8 months. Right. So if you invest in Alex now, there's a real chance that 7 to 8 months from now, Alex is going to go to the bench. Right. So do you invest in him knowing that you can only have him, for probably only 7 or 8 months? Personally, I probably wouldn't do it, even though I think that's the best march in the game. I probably would be more willing to just do like Lucia and then Scipio in the dailies, because because like Scipio, I know will be part of the second infantry pair. I think if Alex actually gets pushed off of matching with Luce, he's gonna go to the bench.
Yeah.
Right. So I think Luce Alex is better than Luce Scipio, but I think Scipio is a better long-term investment.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question would be, okay, well, what about Ragnar? I actually just released a video today talking about that. Ragnar does a lot of damage. It's sexy, right? You see the high damage. Oh, well, you could do 2,800 damage. But kind of like that debuff I was talking about earlier, right? Like if I think a 30% health debuff is worth like a 16 to 18% damage taken increase, right? And then again, if a target has a debuff on them, right, potentially 12 marches could benefit from it. Right? Okay, fine. Ragnar does 2,800, Scipio does 2,000, right? Like clearly Ragnar is doing like 40% more damage, and if you're just measuring that straight, like apples to apples. But that debuff, I think, still puts Scipio way over the top. Right? So like maybe even from a trade standpoint, you can make a case that like this a Ragnar March is going to do better. It probably will, actually. And I think if you had to choose one or the other on the field, I would actually rather have Scipio. So until the infantry picture clears up, because you're finishing KVK 1 right now, right? So like to finish KVK 2, you're probably going to be like 2 to 3 months from now, because there's like a short
how many days
off-season.
Is there actually between the KVK 1 and 2? I'm not even sure.
I actually don't know about KVK 1 and 2. I know from like 2 to 3 it's a really quick turnaround. But let's just assume it's the quickest possible, right? It's gonna be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So like for us in like the end game, as soon as you're out, 2 weeks the first pop comes up, and then every 2 weeks another pop comes up, and then if you skip 3 times, they force you in. They force you in on the third one or the fourth one. Right. So let's just say it's 2 weeks, but then you're in KVK, right? It's like 50 something days, right? And then there's the pre-KVK phase, and then like even afterwards.
Yeah, that's so much.
Yeah, right. So it's still going to be like a few months from now. It just basically by the time you get to KVK 3 now, you could actually be like 4 months away, right? And then like it's like, yeah, you can have them, but like once you get there, you're 4 months away, and then you're very, very short on gold heads in KVK 4 and 5, 6. And then like you put gold heads into this commander, or you put the wheel, right? If you do the wheel and you do the gem, like it doesn't hurt as much, but you have to figure out, okay, if you're not spending the gem on the wheel for Alex, what could you spend it on, right? Well, every other Sunday or Monday at reset, right? Either the Darux comes out or the Esmeralda's prayer comes out, right? And like that's actually where you could spend gems to get the most amount of choice chests besides the VIP shop. So like when it comes to like value for getting equipment, I think by far the best event is the one we have now. It's the Esmeralda's prayer. I just like by far like value wise, right? Like compared to each other, compared to real life, like it's probably not, but then it's actually the VIP shop, and then it's actually the Darux and the Esmeralda's prayer. But like you're going to be needing more material than blueprints for a while. I feel like the best use of those gems, especially now, rather than using those gems to go to Alex, having that go towards more materials will actually set your account up better for the long run. But in the short term, you could also still get your equipment, especially your top 2, to like a really good place relative to other people. So you could benefit on that short term, even though you're not necessarily put into the commanders. You'll still do really well. And then like long term, like you'll have a huge head start on equipment relative to other people, right? Whereas like let's just say you put right, every wheel is what, like 80, about like 70 something thousand gems if you max it, right?
I'm actually not entirely sure. I believe it's I have it somewhere, but I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I want to say it's like 72 or 74,000. I want to say like
it's around this.
Like the Esmeralda prayer, I think it's like 80, like but it's all around that like 70 to 80,000 range, right? And then like if you max like the egg event, I want to say it's like 35 or 40, like somewhere around there, right? But like if you need to do, and then what are you averaging, like about 90 sculptures, 80 to 90 sculptures per per max wheel, right? Like that's a lot of gems to get Alex, as opposed to what you could have got instead, which is like 30 something materials when you're maxing it, right? So
the problem is I'm doing all of that already pretty much. Like I have it noted down on my second screen actually. I have about an income of 350,000 gems per month.
Yeah.
And by doing more than gems, egg, VIP mats, Daruk's puzzle box, and buying the dig shovels, I still have 50,000 gems pretty much left over per month.
Okay, and you're
doing all of them.
Even when you change your spending, you think you'll still be accumulating that much?
This is with the new spending. I noted it down with like me doing like what I'm getting gems, the dailies, the monthly, the dig event, and just another full bundle I just put in, which is like,
if you can actually do that and then still have like a surplus of 50,000 gems per month, then when you actually get to KVK 3 and then now you can max the wheel and do this, that's what I would recommend, right? Because like right now you're doing it on
just
Alex.
save the gems pretty much.
Just have extra gems, and then like once KVK 3 opens up, you go crazy with it. Right. Because like it's like, okay, so, do you want to use it on Alex or do you want to use it like 3 months later on Lucia? That's really the question.
Or do you feel like I could 180 spin like the egg events like above the 150, like 100? Does that make sense, or is it just like I'd rather save them pretty much?
So the egg event is more of a blueprint event. You get some mats, right, but you get a lot more blueprints. You'll probably notice this. Like, I don't even know if you're there right now, but like you should have more blueprints than you can actually use. Whereas like what's the bottleneck is actually materials. Right? So
I'm out of materials now.
So like technically the egg event is a better value, right? Like better value for blueprints relative to say like the VI sheet shop, and the Daruks is for value for mats relative to the VIP shop. But if your bottleneck is going to be material, right, why would you just try to chase better value and then further bottleneck yourself at what the bottleneck is?
I need all of them pretty much.
Like I actually kind of like word saladed that, right? So like yes, the egg event is a better value relative to the VIP shop. But for what you need the most, like you need mats, right? So like your thing should be going towards mats. Okay. You know, having said that, I'm not sure what you're spending on right now, but once you're out at KVK 1 and you're starting KVK 2, you're going to have access to armaments. And if you do plan on spending on armaments, the best time to spend on it is actually when you first have access to it. Because like you want to feel like you're way ahead, right? Like if you're spending, other people aren't, like that's when you'll get the biggest advantage. Whereas there is enough like things now in the game where over time everyone will kind of like start getting into the same like area. But if you spend on it early, you could get a big head start. Like you could get there maybe a month or two before the other people get there, right? So so for me right now, like personally, I don't remember if it's like every month or every 2 weeks, right? But like whenever the Imperium Armaments bundle comes up, it's not there daily. It comes up, I want to say it's once a month, right? But like when you max it, it's like $385. I max it. And then I use that gem. I use that gem to go towards the material events I was talking about. Right. And then you know, when the egg, I have enough gems for that. When it's the dig event, then I'll max the dig event, right? So now I have gems, but like almost all my gems right now are going towards mats and a little bit of blueprints, and then none on commanders. And like the speed's more than enough, especially when you get to an active kingdom, active alliance, right? Like that actually shouldn't be that big of a problem. And you know, if you're in like a more spending one, like I don't know, a lot of people worry about speeds, but you're in an active kingdom, active alliance. I don't even chain, right? So if you're chaining, it's even easier. But like,
I do.
But like, based on you and kind of like just the way you're like talking about stuff and what you're looking for, I think you'll always be in a competitive kingdom. And if you're in a competitive kingdom, speeds shouldn't actually be that hard to come by. That's my experience, right? And whenever I say that, I always get a lot of pushback. But like, I'm not the biggest spender, right? Like I'm actually, my spending range is about where yours is, but it's never been a problem. And then you won't have to worry about this until KVK 4. But when like Crystal Attack comes around, like Mountain Warfare, right? If I'm buying the Mountain Warfare, right, then I'll just do that instead of the Armament one, because the Armament one at this point for me will kind of get me to the special inscription a little faster. But like it's you know, it's kind of gross thinking about it, but almost most of the time when I'm pulling it, I'm not getting any upgrades. I'm literally pulling the stuff to recycle them to you know, get closer to the pity chances or to get more transmutation stones. Then I'm really like also using the gems for mats, but like maxing the Imperial Armament now doesn't actually move my armament forward that much, because like pretty much the only upgrades I could get are like good double inscriptions or special inscriptions, which are very, very rare to come by, or you have to be really lucky.
Yeah, for me, any upgrade will, like everything will be an upgrade at the start.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, everything right now. So like you haven't even really gotten access to it yet, right? But like in general, don't hoard, right? Like don't I made a lot of videos about this. Don't hoard, and then like what you actually want to be using your transmutation stones on are legendary. Well, you can only use it on legendary armaments, but legendary armaments with like at least like a really good regular inscription, or a rare or double inscription, or obviously a special inscription.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm of the opinion, and I think more and more people are jumping on board of this, that you actually pull Arch and you don't pull Wedge, because like if you go in right and you have, let's just say a infantry and cap march starting out, and then you're gonna have archer march later on, right?
Yeah.
The infantry is gonna benefit very little from the Wedge, right? Because like if you run Luce with William Wallace, you don't benefit at all. If you run Luce with Scipio or Alex or whatever, half of that march benefits from the skill damage increase, the other half doesn't. Like the new commander, even though she's not gonna, I don't think she'll have too much staying power unless Lilith decides to go that route, right? But like true damage doesn't benefit from Wedge, right? But everything actually benefits from Arch, right? So like before smite damage was introduced, it made sense to pull Wedge, and that's why like there's still momentum with that. But like there's more and more ways now where there's things there like the Wedge doesn't really benefit that march, and I think it's going to be even more likely in the future that's going to happen. Whereas like every march is doing normal damage, so like pulling Arch, it will actually be applicable to every march, and especially the Lucia march, which for most people is their best march anyways, right? Like like it actually makes sense to pull a universal one, and then once everything gets to a good place, if you want to start kind of branching out, you can. But like if you pull Wedge, right, it'll be wasted on infantry. If the new Cav comes out as a combo attack commander, right, or something, what is the speculation for that? Then all of a sudden Arch will benefit from it, but Wedge doesn't benefit from it, right? If Archer decides to go more true damage, then all of a sudden the Wedge doesn't benefit that. Unlikely, but like you see how there's a lot more of a risk with Wedge, right?
Yeah.
Now I say this more often than not, people are still kind of skeptical. They want to go Wedge. It's fine, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
And then I obviously, like, I think you're already doing this. Don't use any gold heads, right?
Yeah.
Don't use any gold heads.
I use some accidentally, but
I mean, no, it's
yeah,
it's fine,
many.
it's fine, right? But like that's why I'm saying like even for me, right? Like the ideal play is to not use any gold heads, right? That's the ideal. But you also have to play this game for like, even if you could get the commanders of KVK 3, you still have to play this game for like 7 months, 8 months, right? Before you can actually use your gold heads. Like that's a long time to save up for something. Like most people quit by the time they play 8 months, right? So like it's kind of like people that do diets, right? Like you have built-in cheat meals, right? What's something where you can quote unquote cheat or use the gold heads on something that'll actually still keep the game fresh and interesting for you, so you can keep going, but then save as much as you can in the context of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I was wondering, maybe Alex is that cheat meal, but
yeah,
yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so then you could just go for it, because then like if you get there, right? If you get there, okay, and your Alex is already max, then like you literally can instant max Luce, or like maybe spin a wheel for him and then like max him with the rest, and then you have a march that's going to be just like disgusting on the field, because your infantry march is going to be in a good place, and you just use that. That's like by far the best march for trades in the game.
Yeah.
Right, so like that's not a bad option. And okay, fine, like you use some gems there. but like right, like you'll get to enjoy using Alex and KVK2, which like Alex YSG I think is still the best March or KVK2 March in the game. Right. So if you actually do Alex, then I would actually do you could either do Charles Sun Tzu or Charles Richard, depending on kind of like what you're feeling. I personally would actually do Charles Sun Tzu and KVK2. And then you could do Mina CC or Mina by bars, then Alex YSG. Those could be your 3 marches.
Yeah. Because I also need a commander I can really buy dailies for, because I will have Martel expertise, right, with the next MGE.
Yeah.
So Richard, I guess. I mean, yeah, here it says it's expertise, but it's actually only 5551. I can get that one up.
Yeah, like, or you can even do Alex Sun Tzu. I actually wonder. So everyone up to this point has always recommended Alex. If you're running Alex Sun Tzu, you run Alex primary, right? The reason why is because he could get targeted less, and also when Alex has his debuff, then Sun Tzu does a 5-target AOE. But what I actually consistently found, when you have pairing like that, you have essentially an amplifier and then a big AOE, right? The conventional wisdom has been to put the amplifier ahead, even though it's single target. But I actually found that when you put the AOE commander first, it actually ends up trading better on a reports manager. Right? So that's why like ZL Boudica is better than Boudica ZL. Like that's like no question. Now there's some other factors, but like when I try to run Alex Luce, like when it first came out, I'm like, okay, it's okay. But then all of a sudden I flipped Luce primary, Alex secondary, and it was disgusting, right? Like there's other factors, like Alex, right? Like you don't, if Luce fires first and Alex, like you don't lose the attack doesn't switch to defense, all that kind of stuff. So there's other factors, but I would actually play around with a Sun Tzu Alex, because at this point I'm not going to test that. Right, but like I always heard Alex primary, Sun Tzu secondary. I would actually try Sun Tzu primary, Alex secondary, and see if it actually trades better. I think theoretically it probably actually should, because if Sun Tzu's firing first, you get the same thing where Alex, his attack doesn't actually turn into defense, right? Because like I forgot which skill it was. Well, like when you launch when you have a shield active, like it goes to defense, but like you don't want that when the AOE is going off. And you want the AoE to fire first.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
So, wait. Actually, I got distracted by that, because you're gonna be running Alex with ISG. Right. So you're not gonna be running Alex with Sun Tzu. But if people didn't have YSG, like it's the same discussion. Right. So like honestly, I'm actually saying there's a world where YSG primary Alex secondary might be the play, but you're just not going to run that. You're not going to run Archer early.
Yeah.
Right. But like I guess we'll never know unless someone actually decides to test that. Okay. So that's kind of the good plan going to KVK 2, 3, or 4. I think like if I had to like really summarize this down, right? Spend as little gold heads as possible to keep the game interesting for you. Like Alex is realistically the only one you would even spend gold heads on. Right. If you could get MGs for like Martel, great. If not, like 5534 is just like where you're going to have them until you get to KVK 3. Once you get to KVK 3, by then, it's more likely than not that you'll at least know what the next cab is. Like if the new cab is out, maybe you'll actually spend that cab wheel. But if he's not out, you definitely don't want to spend the cab wheel, right? Because then like you're on the verge of finding out what the next cab is. Then you actually want to wait for the infantry wheel. And it's very frustrating for people because everyone else is doing it, right? Like people that you feel like weren't even that good all of a sudden could bring out their end game commanders, and then you're gonna feel like really weak. But also KVK 3 is just like a bunch of altar fights until like a very small Kingsland that usually ends really quick. In my opinion, out of the early game, it's the most boring KVK. Like it's like uncommon that you actually have really good fighting in KVK 3. So like losing out on a couple altars, using the endgame commanders to actually be able to get Luce, in my opinion, is really worth it.
Yeah.
Right. But like right now, Luce, ZL, Herman, and Joan will be the 4 I think is worth spinning in the wheel. Whereas like obviously Nevsky you could get in the dailies. Huo I think is worse than Nevsky, and if you get Nevsky in the dailies, why do Huo? And also the new Cav could come out soon. Scipio you could also get in the dailies, right? There's just not a commander I think it's worth using gems to get to spend, like besides those 4.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Good to note. Yeah.
Okay. So now, having said all that, is there anything that you had a question on I didn't cover? Or I mean, I know we talked offline before this for some stuff, but anything here?
Yeah, I think we covered most of it. I was just, let me see my notes. We did the gems one, we did the marshes, the gear. Yeah, like something I was wondering is how much resources should I really aim for the KVK 2 and like the T4 T5 discussion, because I also told you I was running Martel YSG and Mina CC full T5, and I was mixing on Richard Sansu to like go not too heavy on the resources.
Yeah.
Like what do I do in KVK 2? Do I just like T4 T5, and also resource wise, what should I really have to fight?
So one, it depends on the level of fighting you have, right?
Yeah.
There's actually you can actually look up like a resource calculator on online. There's a bunch of those for basically like what troops you're using and then like what tech.
Yeah.
But whenever I use those, it was actually for like endgame with crystal tech. So here's the difference between T4. Okay, if you're using T5 and KVK1, it's gonna feel way stronger than it feels when you're using T5 and KVK2. Right? Because like not only are you fighting against like T4, maybe T3s and KVK1, but even like the T4s you're fighting against, like the actual like tech underneath the T4 might not be fully maxed.
Yeah.
Right? So like so it's something where like you can actually make a case that you can run all T4, and if you run all T4, just think like you're doing about 90% the damage output, right? But you're like 35% squishier. So like you have 90% the damage output and about 65% the tankiness, and you're like 5% extra march speed. That's T4 compared to T5. Right now, if you mix, you lose the march speed advantage, but then all of a sudden, like the resource cost is significantly more. I think like the regular like wood, food, stone is it like 2 or 3x? I can't remember off the top of my head.
2.5x. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but then the gold cost is like 90% more, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's like significantly more.
It's 20x, yeah.
Yeah, so like so when you're asking me like how much resources you go in,
bullshit.
I feel like that's like because it depends like how much fighting do you have. Like if you're telling me okay, like if your goal is to get, for example, like 1 bill KP and KVK 2, right? And then your goal is to use half T4, half T5 for the whole thing, right? I would say having like about like 1.5 bill of each is like more than enough, especially when you trade the way like I think you're going to trade, right? And if you feel like you're kind of running low on resources, and just pull it to all T4, all of a sudden it's like you're using it at a lesser rate. But like, right, so like basically if you're using T5, the actual like you'll be noticeably more survival on the field. The KP trades actually will probably be worse, just because like how they count T4 to T5, it's pretty skewed. I want to say it's like 12 points to 20 points, T4 to T5, or is it 10 to 20?
I'm not sure.
But it's something crazy like that, right? So like basically you can actually get way better trades running T4, right? But like as far as like how effective you're on the field, T5 is obviously going to be better, but like you're not going to trade as well from a KP standpoint, and then you're way less resource efficient. So like mixing, I think it's like a really good way to modulate that. But like 1.5 bill of each would be more than enough to get you 1 bill KP and KPK2, provided you get the fighting.
Yeah, because like on this like T5 full T5s here, I was running like I burned through 5 to 7 billion each, like this KVK one.
Yeah,
it was like ridiculous.
Full T5, you went through 5 to 7 bill.
I believe like it's hard to say, but I think around this, yeah.
And then you were trading really well, right?
I trade like 300% at average.
5 to 7 bill. I don't
On
know.
food wood for sure, for sure.
Each or total?
Yeah, each.
All right. That actually doesn't that doesn't actually add up for 1 bill.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, well, let me just get about so for reference, right? The like 2 KVKs ago, I did a little over 2 bill, and I used about 6 bill of food and wood. A little over
Okay.
2 bill KP, and that's but again, that is fighting like mostly against like T5s. So maybe I'm gaining KP a little bit faster. But like I actually planned to try to hit 3 bill, and then like I went in with about 10 bill of food and wood.
You fighting T5s might be the main thing, because
might,
95% of my kill points are T4, right? So
yeah, that
that's
might
probably
or
that's
less.
the problem.
Yeah. So maybe like you'll actually use less to still get 1 bill because we're fighting like stronger opponents. I don't know because like
Okay.
5 to 7 is crazy. Like like and if you're trading that well, then it might just be like the troops you're hitting thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was a complete new KVK one. I can't even really even tell you exactly who I was fighting. I was running around with like one March for like Sun Tzu and Bjorn or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else besides the resources?
Oh yeah. The last thing was which accessories am I actually running up until I can get Horn and Ring? Because you see me, I crafted these epic ones basically like as I was getting them pretty much.
Yeah.
Is there like which ones are pretty much best until I can get Ring or Horn pretty much?
Okay, so I think the Wind Scar for infantry is really good. The stratagems is actually more valuable before Crystal Tech. Once you could get Crystal Tech, you get like way more troop expansion. It actually becomes less and less valuable, right? Because like the increase isn't as noticeable relative to everyone else's like March capacity. The lanes is it's kind of crazy, right? Because if you actually look up the older videos on which one's better, Delane's Amulet, Silent Trial, or Delane's, I think like the videos tend to favor Silent Trial. Having used both and kind of like what my thoughts are on Rage and all that stuff now, I think Delane's actually better. So like for me, really what I think is like ideally you just run like one of the blue flags, right? Do you have access to that in the early KVKs?
I have one. I have one of them.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So every KVK should be able to get one, right? So like if you have the Wind Scar and then you're running like a blue flag on each. So right now, like just basically what you have there, it just looks like you just need to get a blue flag on your infantry march, and I would just stop there.
Yeah.
Ring in general, I think it's probably the best one. I think the horn's actually pretty overrated. I'm releasing a video, I think sometime later this week on the horn to talk about why and then like what you should invest in lieu of. But I think like for Smite, it's actually going to be Greatest Glory then Ring, and then I personally think if you're running 2 daggers, the effects of that on the field is actually better than 2 rings. But like that's like a personal choice, right? But like Ring for sure, Greatest Glory for the Smite commanders, and then Horn you really need it for like a siege commander. Like that's one where you really need it. That actually might be the #1 priority for a siege. And then for commanders like Hua or XY, but really for you Hua, if you do somehow end up using him, if your rage requirement is only 850 and then you have a horn, like the effects you're actually like the amount of rage you're gaining that's moving you towards launching the active skill, you actually get more of effect. You can make a case for that. But in general, I think like any commander with a rage engine probably shouldn't be running a horn. And so like in the end game right now, right, like YSG has like kind of like a mediocre rage engine. Zio has a really good rage engine. Lucia has a really good rage engine. If you're running Scipio behind Guan, that's actually a really good rage engine. Because when you have those, when the horn triggers, more, like there's a much higher chance that the rage is just going to waste because you're going over the rage cap. So then basically, if it's going to
Okay.
waste,
Yeah.
like whether you had the horn or not, it didn't make much of a difference, right? So if you
Yeah.
take that in lieu of say like 5% normal damage, or the debuff, the health debuff from the dagger, those actually become like more valuable. So very long-winded way of saying, like, just think basically a ring for every march, and then it kind of depends on like which march you're talking about. But for now, I would actually just focus on getting a flag, and then just stop
Yeah.
there, unless you actually want to do 2 daggers.
Yeah, I won't.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, nice. Thank you very much.
Okay. So that's everything else.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, so definitely stay in touch. Let me know how things go. Usually, like especially when Armaments comes out, there's some questions. It's very, very common. People end up messaging me. And you're playing on a PC, right? Yeah, you play League. So...
I am, yeah.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, man.
Yeah. All right.
Well, awesome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, look for this video sometime next week. I don't know what day yet. Maybe like Wednesday or
Okay.
Thursday.
Okay.
All right. All right, man. I'm gonna stop
Amazing.
recording.